Welcome to the Black and White of It podcast, a podcast where two very different women discuss all things life. Our hope is that by discussing our different and similar perspectives on many aspects of life, people will consider viewpoints that they never thought about before. And now, here are your hosts, Donna and Amy, back with another great topic. All right, let's start the show.
Welcome back to the Black and White of It podcast. This is your host, Donna. I am unfortunately alone again. I am so sorry. I know you guys are missing Amy, but life is lifing, and unfortunately Amy has to attend a funeral this week, and so that kind of puts us out of our availability window again. So again, I am very sorry, but I will today be talking about my favorite podcast, and I will be discussing 5 of my favorite, and then I will talk about a few new ones that I have discovered that I feel like will be on my favorites list very soon. But first, let's get into the quote of the week. Author Mark Moran. The medium of podcasting and the personal nature of it, the relationship you build with your listeners and the relationship they have with you, they could be just sitting there, chuckling and listening. There's nothing like that. So I thought that was the perfect quote for the day discussing podcasts, and it really resonated with me in how we're presenting our podcast, as well as when we listen to podcasts. You do kind of create this relationship, maybe because you are getting to know people pretty well, especially if they've been around a while. Also, if they talk about some really deep topics, you really get to know them very well. And so I just thought, sitting sometimes I am just having a good laugh. I'm not in my head. Yes, I agree. I understand. I get it. I just thought that was a great quote. So let's just jump right in. These are in no particular order, but the very first podcast I would like to mention is called Side Hustle Pro, and the podcaster on there is Nicaila Matthews Okome, and this is the podcast that I use to help jumpstart our podcast. So let me just read a little bit of information from her website so you know kind of what she's all about. In 2016, I created the Side Hustle Pro podcast. Side Hustle Pro is the first and only podcast to spotlight bold Black women entrepreneurs who have scaled from side hustle to profitable business. Since launch, it's been named the perfect entrepreneurship podcast by Mashable, featured on the Today Show, earned over 3 million downloads, and amassed a loyal social media following of aspiring entrepreneurs. I just think this is a great write-up of what she does. She has, I think close to 300 podcast episodes, and a lot of them have to deal with starting your own side hustle, doing your own side hustle, starting your own business, moving from working full-time and having a side hustle to making your side hustle your full-time job. And as a podcaster, she has several episodes on what you need to do, steps that you can take to create your own podcast. And she has some boot camp episodes. She has some episodes breaking down step by step. She has some episodes where she offers free websites and things like where to host your podcast, email, Calendly for scheduling, all that kind of stuff. So she gives a wealth of information on side hustles. not just podcasting. Again, she has all kinds of people that she interviews. So it could be investing. It could be a cookie company. It could be a t-shirt company. It could be a hairline. Whatever the case may be, I have not listened to all 300 episodes. I have listened to a good bit. And I think she gives some really, really great advice on her own. And then she brings on these amazing speakers or people that she's interviewing about what they're doing, and it just really, really, I can't imagine you wouldn't find something to fit your niche of what you're wanting to do as a side hustle. So that is Side Hustle Pro. I will put all of the information in the description for her podcast as well as all of the others, and let's move on to the next one. The next podcast I would like to talk about is Dead Ass with Kadeen and DeVal Ellis. And their description reads, love, sex, marriage, and everything in between. Each week, Kadeen and DeVal Ellis spread love the Brooklyn way. Listen in as they reveal personal truths, share opinions, and inspire us to level up in our own lives by giving some advice. But no matter what you hear, they will always keep it 100. Dead ass. So, DeVal Ellis, some of you may recognize him from Sisters, Tyler Perry's show. He is an actor, and his wife, Kadeen, is his co-host on the show. And they kind of talk about all things millennial marriage and millennial life. They have 4 boys, and they've been married a good while now, at least a decade, if not more. They've been together a lot longer, so they do have a lot of great information as far as it has to do with marriage. Again, I'm single, so maybe I can't really speak to that, but I feel like because they are very transparent and honest about things they've gone through, that it is really good for a married couple to listen to, maybe even a single person, so that they know if they're thinking about marriage, they kind of know what kind of things they may be getting into or having to deal with, because I've never been married, and so I can't really completely 100% understand what goes on within a marriage. Being 38 and having a lot of married friends, I definitely have heard a lot of things, good and bad. So I feel like I have a pretty good idea of some of the struggles, but I don't know how they feel, I guess is the best way to put it. And like I said, they really just give some great advice. They tell stories. They're really funny. Of course, they do have some serious episodes too. They interview people as well. A lot of the episodes I've listened to them have been around their relationship or their children or interactions with friends and family and that sort of thing. But they really are very, very entertaining, just talking about life in general and marriage in general, having children, how to care for children, and that kind of thing. Kadeen herself, like I said, DeVal is an actor, but Kadeen, I think she's done some acting as well, and then she's a awesome makeup artist. So they have several things that go on in their house, and then DeVal is a former NFL player, and they just had their 4th baby at the end of 2021. So, and they're around my age, around the 38 age range. So that is Dead Ass with Kadeen and DeVal Ellis. Again, very life-oriented, very funny, very transparent, very real, and I think you will enjoy them. I also want to quickly mention here for them that it looks like they will be going on tour. They will be taking their podcast on tour in August. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, it might be something that you would maybe want to check out. So yeah, I will again put all of the information below. You can check out their website, see the dates and where they're going to be. The next podcast that I would like to talk about is Getting Grown. And their description reads, Kia and Jade are 2 happy and hardworking blackety black women who are just trying to learn how to adult for real. Join us each week for kitchen table talk, petty peeves, and lessons in Black women's self-care as we try to figure out life as 30-somethings. So this is a podcast where these two ladies keep it very real. They say exactly what's on their mind. It is completely unfiltered. I would call it explicit. I do get a good laugh from them. I enjoy listening to their banter. And then they mention the little sections that they have throughout each podcast. So petty peeves are self-explanatory. And so each week, each of them talks about a pet peeve or an issue that they had for that week. They have the Black women self-care. So they talk about what kind of self-care they've done for themselves that week. And then the kitchen table talk is whatever issue or topic they want to talk about for that week. And that varies. It is another podcast just about life in general. Really, it could be anything. A few weeks ago, they talked about fashion from an awards show. They've had people come and talk about fitness and health. They interview people as well as not only them that speak on their podcast. So they have a wide range of topics. Jade is just finishing up culinary school, so that was a hot topic where there were lots of interesting stories about her interactions with her classmates. So definitely something to check out if you're interested in just hearing about these two young Black ladies' interactions and their lives. They talk about, maybe things they've done that week, movies, shows, traveling, whatever the case may be. And again, keep it very real and can be very explicit, but I really enjoy that. It might not be for every demographic, but they just celebrated 5 years, so they've been around a while. They have a large group of episodes to choose from. So, Getting Grown with Jade and Kia is something I recommend you definitely check out. So, the last two that I would like to talk about are actually not creating new episodes right now, but I love them both, and I think they are worth a listen, kind of guess depending on what you're looking for. So the first one is Cocktails and Confidence podcast that was recorded in 2018, maybe a little bit into 2019, and it's attached to the CurvyCon, which is like a plus size fashion week event put on by Chastity Garner and CC Olisa. And so I will read their description. Chastity Garner and CC Olisa are asked every day about their level of confidence, from fashion to building their own business, and how they get the confidence to do what they do. Each week, CC and Chastity will explore what it takes to be confident over cocktails. So, this is about plus-size women and kind of their interactions in life, whether it be confidence, dating, all that kind of stuff, maybe even starting a business. It's been a while since I listened to the podcast, but I did listen to that whole season that they had available. And it was sponsored by Dia & Co., so I'm not sure if it was only ever going to be one season or what. But they talk about all types of things. So even if you aren't a plus size person, you might still find some value in the topics and episodes that they have. I just really thought they were pretty funny. They have great interactions. And yeah, just really good girlfriends, just chatting it up about life. So definitely check them out. I was not able to find them on Apple Podcasts, but I did find their season still on Spotify. And then they have some items on the old website for the podcast that is still out there. So if that is something that you are interested in, again, like the others, I will put the information below so that you can find these ladies and take a listen to this very great podcast that unfortunately is no longer recording. Okay, and lastly, for my 5 favorite podcasts is my Leak Teals podcast, and I will just go ahead and read the description that will tell you who she is. Basically, I am an entrepreneur and currently running curlbox.com. I share my insights, things I've learned along the way, in hopes to teach you the things I had to learn the hard way. So, my leak is the GOAT at giving life advice. It says here she has 177 episodes. I have not listened to all of her episodes, and I think she might have last recorded in 2021, maybe. I know she said that she planned to bring it back, but I think she did a couple of episodes and not a whole lot when she brought it back at the end of last year. But she's got episodes on finances, on relationships, on business, which a lot of these all have that type of thing. But I'll say for my leak, I follow her and mostly get most of my advice from her on Instagram because, again, she's not making new podcast episodes. But she talks a lot about children, reparenting yourself, what to do with children as far as making sure their emotional health is intact, all that kind of stuff. Again, I don't have any children, but I'm sure some of you out there listening do. So it is great, great, great advice. She talks about becoming your own person, about living as a single person. She is not married to her partner, but they do have the two children together. She didn't start having her children to her late 30s. And then the second one, I believe she was over 40. So I, kind of identify with not having children at a certain point in your life. And so she talks about her single life. She talks about her life as a mother. She talks about not losing your identity in your children and still doing things for you. Some of the other topics, she talks about just different seasons of life. So I highly encourage you to check her out. She may be recording episodes off and on. So she can still be someone that you can listen to as things change in your life. But if not, like I said, Instagram is a great place to follow her to get lots of great, great life advice. She also gives a lot of advice about things to do when you're traveling. She's based out of Atlanta, so lots of like restaurants to visit there or some fun things to do that maybe you don't know about or have never thought of. So I definitely recommend My Leaks podcast as well as her Instagram page. So those are my top 5 favorite. And now we'll move into the couple that I think will be added to my favorites list pretty soon, and we'll try to go through these pretty quickly. Okay, so the first one I want to talk about is the Brown Girl Element, and here is their description. They have the definition of element as a noun, a part or aspect of something abstract. Then it goes on to describe the Brown Girl Element podcast. The Brown Girl Element is a safe space where we can all come and be free. We want you to laugh, cry, and be unapologetically you. So I found these girls, young ladies rather, they both just turned 30. So I found them, maybe a month ago, and they had taken a break, but they have started back their podcast a couple weeks ago, maybe 2-3 weeks ago now. And again, they just turned 30. They talk about, again, all things life, relationships, families. They talk about dating experiences and kind of just navigating life at a different place where they feel like they have gone through some changes out of their 20s into their 30s. And so it's interesting to listen to them as I'm getting very close to 40 and hear the similarities of how life was going for me at that time, and maybe how things were going differently, because that was 8 years ago. It's not a huge jump in time, but so much is different than from when I was 30 in the world, in my personal life, in my thoughts, in my experiences. So I enjoy listening to these young ladies. They keep it very real and explicit as well. So just be forewarned that they don't sugarcoat, they don't bleep out, they're going to keep it very real and talk how they normally talk, which I love. So that is the first one that is headed towards my favorites list. Okay, so this next one is called Accidentally Okay. And these are two 20-something ladies, very similar to Amy and myself. One is black, one is white. I'm going to read you their small description, and then I'm going to read a larger description about kind of their backgrounds. So their description reads, the podcast where we chat about all the chaos life throws at us and how we stumble through and somehow wind up accidentally okay. So again, they talk about all things life, dating, toxic people. They're talking about having to adult. And let's read their description of kind of how their podcast came about. Leah and Nicole met at school, aged 11, and became best friends while rehearsing for their school play. It's been utter joyful chaos ever since, from first periods to motherhood, dating drama to drunken disasters, first kisses to first heartbreaks. They have been through everything together. Although they were established in their individual lives and careers, they always felt they had something more to offer the world as a duo. And that's when Accidentally Okay was born. If there's one thing Nicole and Leah are good at, it's taking the chaos that life is constantly throwing at them, laughing their way through it, and somehow always ending up accidentally okay. The podcast and blog is here to help you feel less alone, to laugh at life, and to remind you that if it's not okay, it's not the end. So these young ladies are learning to adult and winding up okay, because ultimately, it does usually turn out okay. If you're still breathing, you're still moving, you're still going, it didn't hold you back, it didn't get you down, you're still going to be okay. You can keep it moving. So I've only listened to an episode or two of these young ladies, but I think they're really cute and funny. And again, they kind of remind me of younger me and Amy. So the absolute last one I want to mention is Curiosity Invited. This is a podcast hosted by a man by the name of David Bryan, and here's his description. A video podcast driven by curiosity, inviting open-minded conversations. Tune in and learn something new with your host, David Bryan. So he interviews someone on all of his episodes. I think he's about 12 episodes in at this point. He's interviewed physicians, he's interviewed politicians. So he interviews a whole host of different types of people, counselors, so on and so forth. And it kind of gives you an idea more about what's going on in the world, what people have done in the past that have affected our present and will affect our future. Really, really good just information if you're really just wanting to know kind of what people are thinking about, what people are doing. I myself don't typically get a chance to talk to a politician. This specific episode I'm talking about is a lady out in California running for mayor. And it was just really good to hear her thoughts, hear their interactions, kind of hear how she thought about things. Same thing with the physician. He talked a little bit about how things had happened in the past, talked about race relations and that kind of thing. So these are lots of very varied types of people and topics, and David does a really good job. So that is all for today. This is the longest podcast that we have done so far, but I really wanted to do something a little bit more interesting for you guys since I was solo again, and I hope Amy's back next week. I don't want to promise anything because, again, life is lifing, and we just really don't know how things are going to go, but hopefully Amy will be back with me next week with a great topic, and we'll give you hopefully some good advice. If not any great advice, at least maybe you can hear our different perspectives on some things that we have gone through. Thanks so much for listening, and we can't wait until the next time.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Black and White of It podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. That helps others find the show, and we truly, greatly appreciate it. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode of the Black and White of It podcast.